On today's Locked On Magic, it's time for a little history. Why it's time to retire 25 and what this season means in the grand scheme of Magic history. Today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is September 13th, 2024. Spooky Friday the 13th. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we're going to do some Magic history today. I have not done enough of that this offseason. That's my fault because we're really excited about the future. Today, though, we'll talk about what we want to see from the Orlando Magic in terms of how they honor their history this year and what this season means for the Magic's history. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's after we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We will get to the historical context and the historical importance of this upcoming season and why it is really building on so much history that this team has made already. But before the offseason runs out, and this is our last offseason episode, we are back to 5 days a week next week. We are doing player outlooks next week. We are really going to start diving deeper and deeper into the 2025 season. But 25 is a special number. That's called a transition, kids. 25 is such a special number for the Orlando Magic. Not because Chris Duhon wore it, not because Chris Gatling wore it. Love those guys, Magic legends for various reasons. But no, 25 is a vitally important number in Magic history. And while there is a clear Mount Rushmore in Magic history as far as how good a player is, when we talk about the 4 best players in Magic history, we are usually all talking about the same 4 players. And now that the Magic has started to retire jerseys, now that they've started to hang jerseys from the rafters, the Magic are, to some extent, playing catch-up. They've always been playing catch-up with their Hall of Fame. I've written on numerous occasions, here are the players that will go into the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame. It's not rocket science. Just like it's not rocket science whose number should now join Shaquille O'Neal's number 32 above the Kia center floor. It should be Penny Hardaway's number 1. It should be Tracy McGrady's number 1. Yes, 2 number 1s retired. That's not crazy. It should be and will be when he retires, Dwight Howard's number 12. It was important to have him back in the building for Game 6 last year, and he deserved the cheers and recognition that he got. I'll be cheering for him in Dancing with the Stars. It's hopeful that Paolo Banchero's number 5 will join that group. We're talking about the cream of the crop, the top of the top, the best players in Magic history. But the Magic have always made it clear that to be honored by the franchise, to be in the Hall of Fame, it's not just about what you do on the floor. It's about what you mean to the community. It's about what you did in the community. It's about what you did representing the jersey, representing the logo, representing the team. And Shaquille O'Neal said it best when he finally got his jersey retired last February. That A, he didn't think it was going to come because the Magic had made that organizational decision not to retire jerseys. But B, he said, I didn't think I would be the first. Because the first to do anything in a Magic uniform always belongs to number 25. Always belongs to Nick Anderson. He and Pat Williams may his memory be a blessing, were the first two players inducted into the Orlando Magic Hall of Fame, the team's founder and their first draft pick. And while Nick Anderson does not have the individual on-court accolades that a Penny Hardaway, that a Tracy McGrady, that a Dwight Howard, that a Shaquille O'Neal have, he was never an all-star. He was never all-NBA. He was never the top player on a playoff team. He is the sentimental first Magic player. He is the player who the Magic chose first, that came to Orlando, gave this franchise and city, frankly, a chance, and grew to become its beloved son. Yes, Nick Anderson is a Chicago kid through and through. We will not hold that he went to Illinois against him. He is a Chicago kid through and through, but he has spent the majority of his adult life in Orlando. He has, frankly, never left. He did leave for a little bit, played for the Kings, played for the Grizzlies, lived in Atlanta for a little while. But he has been part of this franchise essentially uninterrupted since 1989. And frankly, while I will agree to everyone who says in the comments, oh, but Nick Anderson only averaged so-and-so points per game, I'll stipulate that. You can have that argument. But it's important that we understand the stories that we tell about these players. And frankly, a little placard on the Kia Center concourse is not enough to describe how important Nick Anderson is to this franchise. It is not enough to make sure every Magic fan, and a lot of them now weren't alive when he played from 1989 to 1999 with the Orlando Magic. It is important that every single one of them knows how vital Nick Anderson was and is to this franchise, to this team. Unfortunately, the first thing you will find when you Google his name is his infamy, is his worst moment, his lowest moment in his career. I wrote this article about Nick Anderson. I mentioned that I believe that they should retire at 25, and I could guarantee at the bottom of this article, there will be, at the bottom of this video or this podcast, wherever you're consuming it, there will be a comment mentioning what happened in the 1995 NBA Finals. It is the Magic's responsibility to make sure Magic fans don't define him by that. It is the Magic's responsibility to tell future Magic generations this person is important to us. It is because he was the first draft pick in 1989. It is because he stole the ball from Michael Jordan. It is because he was the first crack at stardom that this team had. He averaged 19 points per game in 1991. It is because he is the first player in NBA history to score 50 points off the bench, only to be overshadowed by Shaquille O'Neal tearing down the basket in the Meadowlands in New Jersey. It is important that the Magic make sure everyone who comes into the Kia Center understands this is our guy. This is who we want all future Magic players to be like. Not just as a player, but as a person. And that's important to this ownership group. Yes, the Titans of this team stand above them all. Shaq's 32, T-Mac's 1, Penny's 1, Dwight's 12, and again, hopefully one day Paolo's 5 will all hang above the Kia Center floor as shining beacons for everyone who enters the building to know these are the players that matter most in this franchise's history. Nick Anderson matters like that. Maybe not for what he did on the floor, but really for being the essential Orlando Magic person. I do not know what the Orlando Magic will do to honor their history this year. Will they skipped the Hall of Fame last year to have the Shaquille O'Neal jersey retirement ceremony. Shaq made it very clear he wants the Magic to retire Nick Anderson's number 25. I think there are a lot of longtime Magic fans who agree that Nick Anderson should have his jersey retired. Will that happen this year? He's always around. You don't have to do very much to get it done. But we'll find out what the Magic have planned to honor their history this year in their 36th season now. But count me firmly in the camp that believes 25 deserves to hang above the Kia center floor. I would have preferred to have him go up first, as I agree with Shaq on that front, but I also understand jersey retirements are attention-seeking. They are ways to get fans excited and engaged about something. They did it on the national television game last year. They did it for attention, and Shaq gets attention. I'm not going to argue that or complain too much about it. But number 25 should be up there in the rafters next to number 32. And it's time to retire 25. Since we are on the topic of history, let's put this upcoming season in historical context. What's on the line historically for the Orlando Magic and what they have to prove to be on the trajectory they need to be. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. And if that's not enough, be sure to check out FanDuel's Profit Boost in the app and use it for FanDuel's Double Your Winnings for all of Sunday, September 15th pre-game money line bets. That's this Sunday. Profit Boost will be live starting Thursday, so starting now. You can view your account page now to learn more about your boost. While that deal is only for pre-game money line bets on Sunday, you can already get odds on the Orlando Magic's opening night game against the Miami Heat. We talked to our friends at Locked On Heat last week to get us ready for that game. I believe the Heat are favored by 1. The Magic odds are shifting a little bit on their odds to win the Eastern Conference. There are plenty of ways to get involved in the action over at FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day. For your next listen, enjoy the Locked On NBA podcast. There is no offseason in the NBA, and Locked On NBA provides daily basketball analysis from national and local experts in 30 minutes or less. No one keeps you as informed and entertained as Locked On NBA. It's available on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, this is a big season. I remember last year at Media Day, I was chatting with David Steele, and I kind of turned to him and I said, I feel like this is the most anticipated Magic season since 2010, since the year after the finals. It really had this feeling of we are on the cusp of something. Like, we saw how strong that team finished last year. We saw how good they were. And it felt like this team was going to take another leap. And you could feel it in very subtle ways. It was the crowds for a 34-win team were a lot better, a lot more boisterous than normal, than you would expect. It wasn't just first overall pick curiosity. It really felt like there was something building. And to some extent, some of us thought, and it turned out to be this was the case, the Magic kind of skipped the 500 step. The 2023 season was their 500 year. They went 29-28 over the last 57 games. That turned into something. So obviously they won 47 games last year. They got to the first round. They lost in the first round. You expect that from your team's first trip to the playoffs. The 1994 Magic lost in a sweep to the Indiana Pacers as the 4 seed against the 5 seed. The 2007 Magic got swept in the first round as an 8 seed to the Detroit Pistons. They were 40-42 that year. It's normal for you to lose your first playoff series, and usually you lose it embarrassingly. The fact that the Magic were competitive in their first playoff series, that's not something that's been done in Magic history. Like, every team that played their first playoffs really struggled in them. What's going to be interesting to watch this year, then, is whether the Magic follow the path of their two title teams. Unfortunately, in Magic history, in 35 years, there has been only two sustained runs of success. The 1995, we'll call them by their finals years. The 1995 team and the 2009 team. The 1995 team obviously started with the drafting of Shaquille O'Neal in 1992. They went 41-41 in 1993, lost on the fourth tiebreaker for the final playoff spot, won the number one pick, made the playoffs the next year. I believe they were 50-32 that year. No, that can't be right. They won a lot of games the next year, lost in the first round, came back in 1995. Yeah, I think they were 50-32 that year. I think they won 57 games in 1995. First seed in the East, went to the finals, won 60 the following year in 1996, ran into the Chicago Bulls, got hurt in the Eastern Conference Finals, got swept in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then, of course, Shaq left and all that was said and done. The 2009 team also had kind of a similar ascent. They drafted Dwight Howard in 2005. The Magic go 36-46. It's the playoffs, essentially, because Hedo Turkoglu broke his arm with about 2-3 weeks left in the season. They kind of faded at the end of the year. They have a rough 2006 season, but after trading Steve Francis, they get on a little bit of a run, have a nice hot finish. 2006 felt very much like 2023 in a lot of ways. The following year, they go 40-42, make the playoffs as the 8th seed, lose in the first round, come back the next year. They win 50. I believe they won 50 games. I think they were 50-32 that year as well. They're the 3 seed, win the division for the first time in 12 years. Beat the Toronto Raptors in 5 games after getting swept the previous year, lose to the Detroit Pistons in the second round in 5 games, come back the next year, win 52 games, 3 seed once again, beat the Sixers in the first round, beat the Celtics in the second round, win the Eastern Conference Finals over Cleveland, lose in the NBA Finals. Following year, they also win 52 games? Yeah, now I'm blanking. They won 59 games, I think. They won 59 games in 2010. I think the 2010 team is the best team in Magic history. We can debate that another day. They win a lot of games. They're the 2 seed, sweep through the first 2 rounds against Charlotte and Atlanta, lose to the Boston Celtics in 6. Things start to implode the following year in 2011, and that's that. I don't think we will see such a quick implosion this time around. Hopefully not. Franz Wagner is under contract for the next 5 years. Paolo Banchero will be under contract for the next 5 years. There are no contract issues. Shaquille O'Neal, there's no Shaq is a free agent or Dwight Howard has an early termination option coming. That stuff's not happening. The Magic are going to be around for a little bit, assuming their guys continue to grow. But the question will be, like those teams in 1995 and 2007 and 2008, are the Magic ready to take another step forward? Because those teams have this very solid upward trajectory, just like this Magic team has. And being good and being elite came very quickly. And obviously it is tied to the stardom of the players. Shaquille O'Neal was already an all-star, became an all-NBA player, one of the top centers in the league. Penny Hardaway became an all-NBA player. That was part of the 1995 team's rise, in addition to them being a really good three-point shooting team. 2007, Dwight Howard was a solid player, did not win Rookie of the Year, probably should have won Rookie of the Year, but was a solid player, became an all-star in 2007, really began to assert himself, and won Defensive Player of the Year in 2008, 2009. The ultimate lesson of all this is, yes, your star players matter. And Paolo, and essentially the Magic and their ability to take the next steps as an organization, as a team, begins with when does Paolo Banchero take the leap? John Schumann has a great article up on NBA.com right now, looking at some Paolo Banchero video, looking at some Paolo Banchero stats. I won't rehash a lot of them. We've talked a little bit about them, but a lot of it's going to come down to Paolo becoming more efficient, being, with the shot diet that he gets, being a better playmaker, being a better, more efficient scorer, getting to his spots better, picking his spots better, picking when he asserts himself, when he becomes a passer, how the Magic can get him some easier shots. All of this stuff is going to go a long way to making him a better player and ultimately making the Magic a better team. Because, frankly, the story of the Orlando Magic and the story of their best teams is based on the rise of their stars. Look, even Tracy McGrady, the Magic made the playoffs because Tracy McGrady was just so unbelievably and undeniably good. And especially in that league, in that era when there was a lot of isolation play and it was just not pretty basketball and just not a lot of skill around the league, to be perfectly honest, T-Mac could carry that team pretty far. He needed a second star, which the Magic couldn't get because Grant Hill was hurt. This year's Magic team has to do what 95 did. Maybe not as far as deep in the playoffs, but they have to do what 95 and 2008 did. They have to, A, confirm the breakthrough season from last year, but B, continue to push forward and push forward through their stars. You know, whether Kentavious Caldwell-Pope can be a Rashard Lewis or Horace Grant type veteran that gives the team exactly what they need is something we're all going to discover. I think KCP is going to change this team and going to help this team pretty immensely. But at the end of the day, we're betting a lot on Paolo and Franz. And if Franz becomes a decent three-point shooter again, the Magic are a lot better. If Paolo is smarter with the shot selection and more efficient, the Magic are a lot better. And that's really what the next leap is. We could talk about the records and all that stuff. The next leap is the Magic star becoming better. Is Dwight Howard reaching all NBA levels. Shaquille O'Neal clearly becoming a Hall of Famer. Penny being an all NBA player. That's what comes next. And so this season is historically significant. It's one that everybody's been anticipating. We're eager to see what this Magic team does next. But this season is historically significant to show us what that next step is. And really, and I think the Magic did a good job of this, letting it be very undefined, but starting this year, we're going to start defining the ceiling. We're going to say, this is probably our upper limit. How do we get past that? The Magic's floor feels pretty high right now, just great. I don't think any of us expect a drop off to the point that they're out of the playoff picture. They may finish with the 7 seed. They may have to go through the play-in, but that's like the worst thing that could happen. Barring like massive injuries. That's the worst thing that could happen. This is a Magic team that's going to be a playoff team for a very, very long time. The question is, and it's a question that 2008 and 95 both answered. The question is, can this team be a title contender? One piece of that future is not yet secured. We're going to talk about the latest on Jalen Suggs coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. What is something that you'd love to learn? As an adult, it can be tough to make time to learn new things. Sometimes that sense of wonder, that sense of trying to discover something new can get lost in childhood. Well, whether it's gardening a new language or trying to beat your friend in bowling, therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because your back to school era can come at any age. There is always something to learn, and most importantly, always something to learn about yourself. I have used therapy at various points in my life. It has always helped me see and read my emotions more clearly. It has always helped me come to grips with things that I'm dealing with in my life that are dealing with either consciously or subconsciously. It has been great to have someone to talk to, great to have someone that I can be emotionally vulnerable with and will not judge me for it and will try and help me. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. So we are coming up on training camp here. 4 weeks away, 3 weeks from Monday will be media day. We're all really, really excited, obviously, to get this thing going. Next week on the show, we are back to 5 days a week. We will begin our player outlooks. We'll talk about individual players and storylines coming into the season. The Magic have started signing their Exhibit 10 guys. They signed 4 more guys yesterday or 2 days ago now. There's still one piece of business left unattended, and one more thing that we are expecting the Magic to get done that has not been done yet. And why there's a delay with it, I don't know. We are still expecting the Orlando Magic to sign Jalen Suggs to an extension before the beginning of the season. Jeff Weltman during Summer League seemed to express optimism that they will get this thing over the finish line. And then we got through Summer League and it's been pretty quiet. Now that's not abnormal, I would say. I think that unless a guy is a clear max player, and we can argue whether Franz Wagner is a clear max player, unless they're getting a max contract, usually these things do wait until training camp. There's an October 21st deadline. And if you remember Cole Anthony last year, a little bit of a different situation. I think we all thought he was going to get more than what he got. But he signed literally on deadline day, October 23rd, 2023. The deadline this year is October 21st. I would expect that either the Magic will get something done early in camp and announce it then, or they will announce it before the season begins. Everyone, though, is expecting the Magic to get something done. Zach Lowe and Bobby Marks were on the Lowe Post earlier this week. And Lowe said, just knowing the Magic, how they operate, the goodwill that they built, how critical Suggs is to the team, he is seeing them signing a deal very similar to Jaden McDaniels, starting at around $27 to $28 million. Bobby Marks seemed to agree. I've been floating that I think he could be a $30 million player, that he could, that the starting offer might be $27 or $28 million. And they'll say, go out and prove to us that you're worth more. And honestly, that might be part of this equation too. Jalen Suggs has had one healthy season. He played 75 games last year. He played 113 the previous 2. They could be saying, hey, this deal's on the table. Let's see how you look in camp. Let's get a better feel. Let's see what those summer improvements look like. And then we'll talk. And then we'll finalize this sucker. Whether that's good business or not, I don't know. Maybe the Magic are trying to debate how to structure the deal to try and get a little bit of an advantage there. But either way, Jalen Suggs is going to be on the Magic for a very long time. I don't see a universe where the Magic do not sign Suggs, whether it's this fall, whether it's before the deadline on October 21st, or whether it's re-signing him as a restricted free agent. He won't even get an offer sheet. They'll get it done next summer. There's no advantage to waiting for next summer, as some people have suggested. It's like, well, why don't the Magic wait? The Magic are already over the cap. If the cap rises at the expected rate, the Magic are already over the cap for next season. So there's no sense in waiting to sign Jalen Suggs. That advantage is gone. That the Tyrese Maxey situation does not exist for this team. I do expect the Magic to sign him to a deal, like a 160 over 5, maybe. I don't know. I'm not doing the math right now. But something starting around 27, 28, maybe 29, maybe $30 million a year. And then the Magic will be set. Then the Magic will have their future core set in stone. You'll have 3 $30 million players because Paolo is going to get a max that's going to pay him $40 million in his first year. Get ready for it. It's worth it. If Franz is a $38 million player, Paolo's a $40 million player. But the Magic's core will be set. That trio will be set. And Suggs is absolutely vital to what the Magic are going to try and do next, to the next phase of this Magic rebuild. There is a lot of work to do. And obviously there is a lot that the Magic have to take care of. But Suggs is going to be part of this thing. Like there's just no getting around it. There's no, no one has any clue where the Magic stand. And when it's announced, it's announced. But Suggs is going to be in a Magic uniform. I am still not worried about it. I think they will get something done before the deadline, but it's probably going to be on deadline day. So I just want everyone to be prepared for it. There are people thinking about it. There are people who don't seem particularly concerned or believe that it won't get done. It's just going to take some time. And that's all we need to say about the Magic's future today. I want to thank you for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of the based on podcasts to your podcast-enabled device. You, of course, subscribe to us as well on YouTube if you want to watch the podcast. Some people consume their podcasts that way. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Like I said, we are starting player outlooks. I will start those next week on there as well. So if you want not just to hear me talk about the Magic, but also writing about the outlook for the Orlando Magic this season, my Patreon page is the place to go. I want to thank you all again for your support. And I am still collecting survey results to hear what you want from that Patreon space, whether you're a subscriber or not. You can find that link on my Twitter page as well. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out the Locked On NBA podcast, where the season never ends, providing national expertise with a local perspective. You can find the link to Locked On NBA in the description, so you don't need to search. It's all part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Like I said, next week we will start player outlooks. We will start diving deeper and deeper into the 2025 season, all the storylines, all the things you need to know to get yourself ready for the season. We are coming up on 3 weeks until training camp. It's going to come very, very quickly, and then the season's going to start, and we're going to be in the mess, and it's going to be great. It's going to be fun. We're all looking forward to it. Hope everyone enjoyed the offseason. The season is getting ready to begin. So have a great weekend. Rest up. We'll be back to work on Monday. Until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.